Hey, everybody, it's Brian Coley, the Movie Whisperer. This is the place where we look at the intersection of movies with our story. And in the last episode, I talked a little bit about the concept of the difference between the box office and the Oscars. I believe that as far as our story is concerned, the Oscars are telling us where we're headed, and the box office tends to tell us where we've come from and where we are. There is one exception to that, and I've seen it over the last 8 years, these movies that have come and either amplified what the Oscars have said, or they have preceded the Oscars in their themes, and they've come from one company, and that company is...
Oh, excuse me.
Excuse me. Excuse me. Excuse me. Excuse me. Excuse me. Get out of the way.
Who is this crowd? Hey, down in front.
And that is the wonderful world of Disney. Now, Disney actually represents several entities, so it's not just, Disney as we think of it. For those of you who may not know, Disney owns Star Wars, they own Marvel, they own Pixar, they own Fox now. So as far as film is concerned, they own a lot of movies, but we'll focus on a few of those as we go through. So what I want to do is to show you how Disney has kind of been a part of our story and its relationship with the Oscars. I want to rewind to 2017. Now, what happened in 2016, 2017, Trump's being inaugurated as president at the beginning of 2017. And these are the movies that are coming out as Best Picture. Now, the theme this year, and I'll spend another episode kind of diving into this further, but the theme this year is going back to the past and getting a true story of the past. That's what these movies all kind of said. And even if it means looking at the sins of our past. Well, this is pretty significant because in 2017, what happened was Charlottesville, what happened was the NFL kneel down, and what happened was the Me Too movement. So culturally, the Oscars were really foreshadowing a lot of these things in which we needed to go back and look at the sins of our past and look at a true story of the past. But as far as Disney is concerned, right after the Oscars, a movie came along, which actually was one of the best box office hits of 2017, and that is Beauty and the Beast. And you may go, well, Brian, what about Beauty and the Beast is about that? And if you think about it, Beauty and the Beast is about a curse on a kingdom. And that curse was caused, if you go back to the past, of a sin in the past where the ruler of that kingdom was prideful and, dissed this witch. And ultimately the witch put the curse on his kingdom and made him into a beast. So when you think about that, you can think about just the concept of how that relates even to the concept of race in our country, of just the idea of this sin of our past, which is related to a curse in our kingdom in the present. And so that's what starts it off. But then you start seeing the amplification of this theme. And you almost want to go, I want to sit down with some Disney executives and see what they were thinking with all these movies kind of piling up. So the next movie that comes out is Thor Ragnarok. These are the two you'll see Thor Ragnarok and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. They pretty much are almost the same movie as far as this theme that was in the Oscars that year of going back and getting a true account of the past and looking at the sins. If you think about Thor Ragnarok, basically father and son story. The father is the ruler of a kingdom. He is this benevolent, this idea of a benevolent ruler. And yet what happens in Thor Ragnarok is his sister comes along and she reveals this mural in which, all of a sudden we see the painting behind the painting, and the painting behind the painting is that Thor's dad was this conqueror. He was not such a great ruler. He was more of a colonizer of kingdoms, and Thor has to deal with that true story of the past and the sins of the past. And then if you look at Guardians of the Galaxy. So Guardians of the Galaxy, almost the same story. It's like the writer's room were together on this one, and father, son, ruler of a kingdom. Ultimately, that ruler, the son finds out that the father is not as great as he thought he was. He has to figure out what the true story of the past is. And guess what the true story of the past is? Well, it has to do with the fact that his dad was a colonizer. His dad was actually a conqueror of all these different kingdoms. So, again, I think this is pretty significant as far as the way these movies came about in the midst of our conversation about race, in the midst of our conversation about what would ultimately be about the sins of a whole lot of white men around the Me Too movement. So, a whole lot of people in power, a whole lot of rulers of Hollywood, like Harvey Weinstein, who were being taken down based on finding out the true story of their past. So all of a sudden, the Me Too movement happens in like October 2017. And guess what? A movie comes out by Pixar this time, Disney Pixar, and it is Coco. And you may be going, what in the world does Coco have to do with any of these themes? Well, again, another amplification Disney does of this theme, because if you think of Coco, it's about a little boy named Miguel. And right when we're having the skeletons of our past being, out of the closet, all these skeletons coming out of Hollywood and all these old white males, all of a sudden, Miguel is going into the world of the past, which is a world of skeletons, a world of the dead. And what happens in Coco? Well, he's trying to figure out the true story of who is his father. And so he ends up finding out that the guy he thought was his father, spoiler alert, actually is not his father. And he finds out the true story. And the true story has to do with a sin that this particular dad that he thought did against his true dad. So once again, another story amplifying this thing. And for me, it was just like crazy. Like, we're talking about the skeletons of the past, and we're watching a movie about skeletons of the past. So again, another thing where Disney is just like right on top of amplifying these themes that are happening out in culture. Now, I want to put a footnote here. This is very important. And this is why I believe God is kind of in control of all this. And that is because these movies were made way a long time ago. If you talk to anybody in animation specifically, they'll tell you, gosh, Coco was probably took a long time to bring to market. So you're dealing with conception to development to pre-production to production to finally distribution. That can take, up to 8 years. It could take even longer than that for, there's stories of scripts being, in development for years before they're actually greenlit. So it really is truly a miracle that these films come all together. So that's the beginning. Now, in the next episode, I want to focus on 2018 and 2019, and then bring us all the way up to WandaVision, because in 2018, there was the end of 2017 in December, there was a little movie called The Last Jedi that came in, and I'm going to explain the next episode how The Last Jedi, how Incredibles 2, Mary Poppins Returns, Black Panther, and then WandaVision had to do specifically with amplifying, or actually in this case, being a predecessor to what the Oscars actually were going to say. So tune in next time, and we'll explore this concept of how Disney might have a certain magic when it comes to telling our story.